So we're going to look at the inventory cost flow assumption. So you got to think from an inventory cost flow perspective. So when we want to buy, we buy stuff and we sell stuff. But conceptually, you got to think that even as a merchandising business, in your, say, Walmart, and you're buying TVs from Samsung, you buy them one day for $55 a piece, then you buy them the next day for $80 a piece, the next batch you buy is $100, and then you sell some. How do you know which number to use for your cost of merchandise sold? Well, that's what we're going to dive into here in this part of the lecture. As one method would be the specific identification method. So let's use an example. Let's just say we're a manufacturing company and we build birdhouses. So if we know that if we paid $1 for a 2x4 in January, $2 in February, $1.50 in March, if we could identify specifically which pieces of wood we paid what price for them, we could use the specific identification method. But say we have 10 million 2x4s in the yard. Well, then it's nearly impossible to identify them, and this just isn't practical. So this method's typically more practical for small quantities of things that have a unique identification number already. So an example would be the VIN for an automobile. So if you're an automotive dealership and you have inventory on hand and you have, say, 20 Corvettes, well, you can say we paid $20,000 for Corvette VIN 1234. We paid $40,000 for Corvette VIN 45678, and then you can uniquely identify each one that you sell. But for businesses like our birdhouse company, where there's millions of pieces of wood in the yard, it's just not practical. So the three inventory methods we're going to look at FIFO, LIFO, and average cost. So FIFO is cost flow, is in the order of the costs that were incurred. So the first items in are the first ones out. So if we pay $1 for something in January, $2 in February, and $3 in March, we're going to use the dollar stuff in our cost first. Then when we're out of the dollar stuff, we're going to use the $2 stuff. When we're out of the $2 stuff, we're going to move to the $3 stuff. First in, first out. LIFO is the opposite. So if we bought the dollar stuff in January, the $2 stuff in February, and the $3 stuff in March, we're going to use the $3 first. Then we use all the $3, we're going to use the $2. We use all the $2, we'll use all the $1. So you see that LIFO and FIFO are the opposite of each other. And then average cost is as it is, the average cost of the merchandise bought. Let's look at an example of FIFO. So in this example, in the upper right, we bought one unit on May 10th, one unit on the 18th, and one unit on the 24th. It tells us we sold one on May 30th for $20. Well, which price are we going to use? 9, 13, or 14 for the cost? Well, we're using FIFO, first in, first out. So the first one in was May 10th for $9. So that's the first one out. So if we look in the lower left, our income statement, sales is $20 because we said we sold it to the customer for 20 bucks. Our cost of merchandise sold is $9 because $9 is May 10th, which was the first one in. And then our ending inventory, we don't have the May 10th unit anymore, but we have the May 18th and the May 24th unit for $13 and $14 each. So our ending inventory is 27 bucks. LIFO is the opposite. So we still sold one unit on May 30th, but we're not going to use the $9 unit on May 10th. We're going to use the last one in. The last one came in on May 24th for $14. So in the lower left, our sales were $20, cost of merchandise sold $14, our gross profit is $6. And then for our ending inventory, we used the May 24th unit, but we still have the May 18th one on hand for 13 bucks, the May 10th one on hand for 9 bucks, so our ending inventory is $22. So average cost. So if we look at our inventory, we have 3 units on hand that we paid a total of $36 for, 9 plus 13 plus 14. If you divide the $36 cost by 3 units, our average cost per unit is $12. So in the lower left, our sales were $20 because we said we sold it to the customer for 20 bucks. Our cost of merchandise sold was $12 because that's the average cost of 1 unit. In our ending inventory, we had $36 of inventory. We sold 12 of it, so that means we must have $24 left. So let's look at the different methods. So when prices are going up for stuff that we're buying, when we use FIFO, cost of goods sold is lower and our gross profit is higher. Because when prices are rising, we're using the lower cost stuff first and not using the higher price stuff. So LIFO, the cost of goods sold would be higher because we're using the higher price stuff first. And we have to get through the higher price stuff to get to the lower price stuff. And then in LIFO, since our cost of goods sold is higher, our inventory is lower. So when we look at the result, FIFO, when we have the cost going up in the future, with FIFO, we're going to have to use those costs eventually. So eventually, we're going to see the lower gross profit and the higher cost of goods sold. In LIFO, we're matching the current cost with the current revenue because we're using the prices that we're buying the stuff for now when we're selling it now. So it is a better match of current cost with current revenue. And the average cost method is always just a compromise between LIFO and FIFO.